The grandfather clock in my study struck 5, but I'd been awake for hours. Couldn't sleep. Haven't been able to for weeks, really. Today was supposed to be perfect. My little girl Emily's wedding day, but something felt wrong. I sat at my oak desk, the one I'd built myself 30 years ago when I started Mitchell Construction, and opened the leather checkbook register. My accountant said I was old-fashioned, keeping paper records in 2024, but paper doesn't lie. Paper doesn't get deleted. Paper remembers everything. 267 entries. I counted them twice, my calloused finger tracing each line. 15 years of transfers, loans, gifts, whatever Elena wanted to call them. The numbers stared back at me like an accusation. 30,000 here for Carlos's emergency. 50,000 there for Margaret's medical bills that I later learned were cosmetic surgery. Another 75,000 for Carlos's restaurant that failed in 6 months. 273,000. $650. That's what my love had cost me. That's what being a good husband, a good son-in-law, a good uncle had meant. Nearly $300,000 hemorrhaging from our accounts while Elena bought her family's affection with my sweat. My phone buzzed against the desk. Unknown number. At 5 in the morning? My chest tightened. Was something wrong with the wedding venue? Had Emily? The text was simple. Check your security camera. 3 a.m. Living room. My hand trembled slightly as I set the phone down. How did they even know about my cameras? I'd installed them quietly last month after noticing things moved in my office. Never told Elena. Never told anyone except the computer screen flickered to life. I pulled up the security app. Rewound to 3 a.m. The timestamp in the corner read 3:07 when the living room lights clicked on. My breath caught in my throat. This was going to change everything. Elena entered first, still in her silk nightgown, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary. Margaret followed, fully dressed despite the hour, clutching her phone like a weapon. Then Carlos, scratching his belly through a food-stained shirt. But the fourth person, my God, David Chen, Elena's former boss. In my house, at 3 in the morning, I turned up the volume, my hands now steady with cold focus. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Margaret's voice, sharp as ever, even at 3 a.m. Phase 1 is complete, David responded, his accent barely noticeable after 20 years in Phoenix. After the wedding, we moved to Phase 2. Robert's company has the perfect infrastructure for what we need. Elena laughed, actually laughed, that soft musical laugh I'd fallen in love with 30 years ago. He won't know what hit him. The fool still thinks I love him. My stomach turned to ice. 15 years of preparation, Carlos added, helping himself to my scotch, the 25-year-old Macallan I'd been saving. Every loan, every favor, every manipulation documented as gifts. He can't claim fraud when he willingly signed everything. The prenup modification last year was genius, Elena. David moved closer to my wife. Too close. His hand touched her lower back in a way that wasn't professional, adding the mental health clause. If he contests anything, we declare him unstable. That's when I saw her. Emily. My daughter stood in the doorway, still in her bridesmaid pajamas from the bachelorette party. Her face was pale, eyes wide with what? Fear? Disgust? She was frozen, watching her mother and grandmother plan my destruction. Emily, Misha, come here. Margaret noticed her first. I just came for water. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. You heard nothing, understood? Elena's tone turned ice cold. Tomorrow you marry James, David's son. We become one powerful family. Your father, he's served his purpose. The footage went dark. They'd turned off the lights, but I'd heard enough, seen enough. My entire family, my life, was a lie. I pushed back from the desk, memories flooding like a broken dam. 2009. The first time Carlos showed up at our door, crying actual tears. Roberto, Hermano, they're going to kill me. I owe the wrong people 30,000. Elena sobbed in my arms that night. Please, mi amor, he's family. He made mistakes, but he's trying to change. I wrote the check. Carlos never said thank you, just took the money and disappeared for 3 months. Then 2014. My mother needs somewhere safe to live, Elena had pleaded. The neighborhood's getting dangerous. She's old, Roberto. What if something happens? $200,000. Cash. Margaret moved in and immediately redecorated everything, complained about the location, the size, the neighbors. Not one word of gratitude, just demands for more, always more. 2019 brought Carlos again. The restaurant is my dream, Roberto. I've learned from my mistakes. This time will be different. 75,000. The place closed in 6 months. Carlos blamed the economy, the location, the staff, everyone but himself. When I suggested maybe he wasn't meant to run a restaurant, Elena didn't speak to me for a month. The silent treatment, her favorite weapon. And just last year, 2023, Sophia's medical school. She's brilliant, Roberto. She'll be a doctor. Isn't that worth investing in? 120,000 for 4 years, paid up front because the discount was worth it. I found out last month she'd dropped out after 1 semester. Been partying in Cabo for a year on my money. When I confronted Elena, she said I was being petty. That family meant supporting each other no matter what. The pattern was always the same. Elena would cry, beg, make love to me like when we were young. She'd whisper promises in the dark, tell me how much she loved me, how grateful she was. Then once the check cleared, she'd turn cold, distant, share our bed but not her thoughts, until the next time they needed something. And there was always a next time. I'd been their ATM. Nothing more. Insert guilt, withdraw cash. Insert tears, withdraw retirement funds. Insert false love, withdraw dignity. A machine. Predictable, reliable, stupid. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. You're not crazy. You're not alone. Today, everything changes. A friend. I stared at the message, then at my reflection in the computer screen. 58 years old. Gray hair, tired eyes, shoulders bent from carrying everyone else's weight. The man in the reflection looked defeated, used up, but then something shifted in those tired eyes. Not rage, not even hurt. Something colder, cleaner, determination. They thought I was just a machine dispensing money. Today, at my daughter's wedding, they'd learned machines could be reprogrammed. And sometimes they could fight back. I closed the checkbook register, locked it in my desk drawer, and stood up. My back straightened for the first time in years. The sun was beginning to rise over the Phoenix Mountains, painting the sky the color of blood and gold. Fitting, because today everything would burn down, and from those ashes I'd build something new, something mine, something real. The wedding was in 5 hours. Elena would wake soon, put on her perfect mother act, kiss my cheek like she hadn't been planning my destruction. Margaret would arrive in her new dress bought with my money. Carlos would show up drunk already, and David Chen would shake my hand like he wasn't screwing my wife. They'd all smile for the cameras, play their parts, but they'd made one mistake. They'd let me see behind the curtain, and now the show was over. The drive back to the Phoenician took 17 minutes. 17 minutes with Tom Bradley's voice in my earpiece, explaining things that made my blood run cold. James Chen isn't David's son, Robert. He's FBI agent James Park, undercover for 3 years. Your daughter doesn't know. Nobody knows except his handler and me. The security guard who'd turned me away an hour ago went pale when he saw me walking back with Tom. Sir, I was told. You were told wrong. Tom flashed credentials I couldn't see clearly. This man is part of an active federal investigation. You will let us through, you will say nothing, and you will forget you saw us. Understood? The kid nodded so fast I thought his head might fall off. We walked through the lobby, past the crystal chandeliers and marble fountains, toward the ballroom where my daughter's wedding was in full swing. Through the doors I could hear music, laughter, the clink of champagne glasses, the life I'd paid for but wasn't allowed to join. Remember, Tom whispered, James doesn't know we've made contact. He thinks you're just the mark. Play it broken, defeated. Let them think they've won. The ballroom doors opened and 200 heads turned. The music stuttered to a stop. Elena, standing near the head table in her mother of the bride dress, the one that cost $8,000, went white as fresh snow. But it was Emily's face that killed me. Relief, joy, and terror all fighting for control. Dad! She started toward me, but James Chen's hand caught her wrist. Not rough, but firm. Possessive. Now that I knew what to look for, I could see it. The way his eyes scanned the room, cataloging exits, threats, reactions. This wasn't a 25-year-old Harvard boy. This was a trained federal agent playing a role. Mr. Mitchell, James's voice carried across the silent room, I don't believe you were invited to the reception. Margaret materialized beside Elena, her face twisted with rage. How dare you return? Security! But Tom stepped forward, and something about his presence made everyone freeze. Mrs. Hernandez, Mr. Mitchell has every right to be here. He paid for this event. Every penny of it. Who the hell are you? Carlos lurched forward, already 3 drinks deep, judging by his gait. Just a concerned neighbor, Tom smiled, and someone who thinks a father should see his daughter get married, even if that marriage is a complete sham. The room exploded in whispers. James's eyes narrowed, his hand moving to Emily's lower back. My daughter looked between us, confused, scared, lost. Dad, what's happening? What's he talking about? Before I could answer, David Chen stood from the head table. 58 years old, silver at the temples, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. The man who'd been in my bed with my wife 2 weeks ago. The man planning to steal everything I'd built. Robert, his voice was smooth as aged whiskey. This is embarrassing for everyone. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Privately? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my ears. Like the private meeting you had in my living room at 3 a.m.? The one where you discussed Phase 2? Elena's champagne glass shattered on the floor. Robert, you're confused. You're not well. Please, I have it on video, Elena, my voice carried across the ballroom. You, your mother, Carlos, and David, planning this whole thing. 15 years of manipulation, and now apparently you're pregnant with his child. The gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Phoenix society loved scandal, and this was premium grade. Emily's face crumpled. Mom, is this true? Elena's mask finally slipped. For just a moment, I saw the real woman underneath. Cold, calculating, and not even slightly sorry. Emily, your father is having a breakdown. The stress of the business, the drinking. I haven't had a drink in 6 months. I cut her off. But nice try. Is that part of the plan too? Paint me as an alcoholic? Unstable? Makes it easier when the FBI raids my office Monday morning, doesn't it? David Chen moved then, smooth as a snake. James, perhaps you should take Emily somewhere quiet. This is disturbing her. James nodded, started to guide Emily away, but my daughter planted her feet. No, her voice was small but firm. I want to know what's happening. Dad, what video? What plan? I pulled out my phone, found the file, and held it up. Should I play it for everyone? Let them hear you laughing about what a fool I am? How easy I was to control. Margaret lunged for the phone, but Tom intercepted her. Ma'am, I'd think very carefully about your next move. You don't understand. Margaret's voice was shrill now. This man, he's nobody. He married into our family, but he was never really one of us. Blue collar, construction worker. We gave him opportunities, connections, and this is how he repays us? Opportunities? I couldn't help but laugh. I paid for those opportunities. $273,000 worth. Every failed business, every bailout, every luxury you couldn't afford. My money, my sweat, my work, money he stole from his company. David announced to the room. That's why the FBI is investigating. Embezzlement, tax fraud. I tried to help when I discovered it, but bullshit. The word exploded from me. You planted that evidence. You and your triad connections. The room went deadly silent. David's face didn't change, but his eyes did. For the first time, I saw the real danger there. The kind of man who could order deaths as easily as dinner. That's a serious accusation, Robert. Slanderous, even. I'd be very careful. Careful? I took a step forward. Like you were careful when you met with the Red Dragons last month, when you told them my company would be perfect for moving their money. I have those photos too, David. That was a lie. I didn't have photos. But Tom had told me to push, to make David react, and the slight twitch in his jaw told me I'd hit the mark. James Chen stepped forward then, his body language shifting subtly. Mr. Mitchell, these accusations are serious. If you have evidence of criminal activity, you should contact the authorities. The authorities? I looked at him. This fake son, this FBI agent playing dress-up. Which authorities would you recommend, James? Or should I call you Agent Park? The explosion of movement was instant. James's hand went to his hip where a gun would be. David Chen stepped back. Elena screamed, but it was Emily's voice that cut through everything. Stop! Everyone just stop! She stood in the middle of the chaos, her wedding dress pooling around her like white water, tears streaming down her face. Is any of this real? Is anything in my life real? Mom, are you pregnant? Is it Dad's? Elena's silence was answer enough. And you, Emily turned to James. Are you even really James Chen? Do you actually care about me? Or am I just part of some operation? James's professional mask cracked. For a moment, I saw real regret there. Emily, he's FBI, Tom said simply. Has been since the beginning. Your wedding, sweetheart, is a sting operation. Emily laughed then, high and slightly hysterical. Of course it is. Of course it is. My whole life is a lie. Why not my wedding, too? She looked at me, and in her eyes I saw the little girl who used to run to me when she skinned her knee. Dad, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know any of this. I know, baby girl. I know. Margaret grabbed Elena's arm. We're leaving now. But Tom shook his head. Nobody's leaving. In about 5 minutes, this place is going to be surrounded by federal agents. The real FBI, not just James here. David Chen, you're going to be arrested for money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. Elena Mitchell, you're going to be charged with fraud, conspiracy, and theft. Margaret and Carlos Hernandez, you're both looking at accessory charges. You can't prove anything. David's voice was still smooth, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Actually, James finally spoke, his voice different now, authoritative. We can. Mrs. Mitchell has been very helpful. Those meetings in the house, we were listening. The pregnancy, we have the medical records showing Mr. Chen paid for the fertility treatments. The planted evidence in Mr. Mitchell's office, we watched you do it. Elena's face went from white to gray. You knew? This whole time you knew? My job was to get close to David through you, James said simply. I'm sorry, Emily, you weren't supposed to be collateral damage. The sound of sirens filled the air. Through the ballroom windows, we could see the black SUVs pulling up, agents in tactical gear stepping out. The wedding guests were backing away now, phones out, recording everything. By tonight, this would be on every news channel in Phoenix. Robert, David Chen's voice was different now. Desperate. We can make a deal. I have money. More than you can imagine. Take your daughter and go. Leave the country. I can make all of this disappear. The only thing disappearing is you, I said quietly. Into federal prison. For a very long time. The ballroom doors burst open. FBI. Nobody move. The agents flooded in, weapons drawn, badges bright. The cream of Phoenix society screamed, ducked, spilled champagne on dresses that cost more than cars. And in the middle of it all, Emily stood frozen, a beautiful statue in white, watching her world collapse. I walked to her through the chaos, agents flowing around us like water around stones. Emily, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. She collapsed against me, sobbing into my chest like she hadn't since she was 10. I wanted it to be real, Dad. I wanted to be loved. You are loved. I held her tight as they handcuffed her mother, her grandmother, the man she thought she was marrying. You've always been loved, just not by the people who should have. David Chen walked past us in handcuffs, and he paused. This isn't over, Mitchell. I have friends, powerful friends. Tom Bradley appeared beside us. His friends are about to have their own problems. The Red Dragons are going to learn what happens when you threaten American citizens on American soil. As they led Elena out, she looked back at us. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Regret? Or just regret at being caught? Robert, she called out, I did love you. Once, in the beginning. Maybe, I said, but you loved money more. And then she was gone. They all were, leaving Emily and me standing in a destroyed ballroom, surrounded by overturned chairs and broken champagne glasses and the shattered pieces of our life. What happens now? Emily asked, her voice small. Now, I looked at Tom, who nodded. Now we rebuild. But first we need to talk. There's more to this story, and you're going to need to be strong for what comes next. Because Phase 2 hadn't been stopped. It had only been delayed, and the real war was just beginning. Monday morning came like a hammer to the skull. 3 days after the wedding disaster, I sat in my office at Mitchell Construction, trying to salvage what was left of my business. 17 clients had already pulled out. The FBI investigation news had spread like wildfire, even though no actual raid had happened yet. My phone hadn't stopped ringing, and none of the calls were good. That's when Marcus Thompson, my lawyer for 20 years, walked in with a face that told me everything was about to get worse. Rob, we have a problem. 3 problems, actually. He set down a stack of legal documents that landed like a death sentence. Carlos Hernandez is suing you for 50% ownership of his failed restaurant. He claims you were silent partners and that you've been hiding assets from him. I almost laughed. Partners? I gave him $75,000 to save his ass. There was no partnership. It was a gift. A stupid, stupid gift. He has documents, Rob. Signed documents. Marcus pulled out photocopies. These look like your signature. I studied them closely. They were good. Too good. These are forgeries. I never signed anything making him a partner. I know that. You know that. But proving it in court while you're under FBI investigation? That's going to be tough. Marcus flipped to the next document. Problem 2. Someone named Dragon Holdings LLC just acquired 30% of Mitchell Construction through various proxy buyers. Guess who owns Dragon Holdings? David Chen. It wasn't a question. How the hell did he get 30% of my company? Remember those investors you brought in during the 2008 recession? When construction tanked and you needed capital? Marcus's expression was grim. Chen's been buying them out quietly for 2 years. He owns their shares now. And with 30%, he can call for an emergency board meeting. He can challenge your decisions. He can even push for your removal as CEO if he gets a few more board members on his side. My chest tightened. 2 years. They'd been planning this for 2 years minimum. While I was paying for Elena's shopping sprees and Margaret's mortgage, they were systematically destroying everything I'd built. What's the third problem? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Marcus hesitated. This morning around 4 a.m., 3 men approached your foreman at the Hayward site. Hispanic males, tattoos, made it clear they were connected to the Sinaloa organization. They said if work continues, accidents might happen. Expensive accidents, bloody accidents. Margaret, I muttered, she's actually connected to the cartel. Appears so. Rob, this is beyond corporate warfare now. This is dangerous. You need protection. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. David Chen walked in like he owned the place, which technically 30% of it he did. 2 men flanked him, both Asian, both wearing suits that didn't quite hide the muscle underneath. Robert, I hope you don't mind the intrusion. As a major shareholder, I thought we should talk. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. About the future of Mitchell Construction. Get out of my office, Chen. Our office, he corrected, settling into the chair across from my desk. 30% ownership gives me certain rights, including the right to review all financial records, all contracts, all questionable transactions over the past 15 years. He pulled out a tablet, swiped through some files. For instance, these payments to Hernandez family members, nearly $300,000 with no proper documentation. That looks like embezzlement to me. Stealing from shareholders to pay your wife's family? The board won't like that. That money came from my personal draws, my salary. My prove it, David's smile widened. Oh wait, you can't, because Elena was so helpful in mixing personal and business expenses. Joint accounts, shared credit cards, company checks for personal use. It's a forensic accountant's nightmare. Or dream, depending on who's paying them. One of his muscle men moved closer. Subtle but threatening. Marcus stepped forward. Mr. Chen, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Any communication should go through legal channels. Of course, David stood, straightened his jacket. Oh, Robert, you should know that the emergency board meeting is scheduled for Thursday. We'll be voting on your continued employment. Given the FBI investigation and these financial irregularities, well, I wouldn't get too comfortable in that chair. He walked to the door, then turned back. How's Emily, by the way? Such a shame about the wedding. James was quite upset. But then, you destroyed that relationship too, didn't you? Just like you destroy everything you touch. After he left, I slumped in my chair. Marcus poured 2 glasses of water from my desk pitcher. Rob, we need to The window shattered. Glass exploded across my desk as a brick landed in the middle of my papers. Attached was a note. Back off or burn. Mach, Margaret Hernandez. Subtle as always. Marcus hit the floor, pulling me down with him. Are you hit? Are you bleeding? I'm fine, I said, though my hands were shaking. Marcus, they're coming at me from every angle. The lawsuit, the hostile takeover, now physical threats. I can't fight all of this at once. That's when Tom Bradley walked in, stepping through the door like he'd been waiting outside the whole time. He looked at the broken window, the brick, the cowering lawyers, and didn't even blink. Gentlemen, mind if I join the party? Tom, how did you... Building security let me up. They know me. He walked to the window, examined the trajectory. Thrown from the parking garage across the street. 3rd level based on the angle. They're probably long gone, but there might be cameras. Marcus stood up, brushing glass off his suit. Who are you exactly? Tom pulled out his wallet, flipped it open. The CIA credentials were old but genuine. Tom Bradley, retired company man, current pain in David Chen's ass, and right now Robert's best friend. He turned to me. The wedding sting didn't get everyone. David's still free because his lawyers are better than God. Elena's out on bail. Margaret disappeared before we could grab her. And now they're regrouping, hitting you while you're vulnerable. So what do? I asked. I can't fight the cartel, the triads, and corporate takeover all at once. Tom smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. You don't fight them all. You make them fight each other. Chen and Margaret aren't really allies. They're using each other. Chen wants your company for money laundering. Margaret wants your money for her family. Their goals overlap now. But what happens when they don't? They turn on each other, Marcus said slowly. Exactly. And we're going to help that process along. Tom pulled out a phone, started typing. First, we need to handle the immediate threat. The cartel boys who threatened your job site. They're about to learn that construction sites have cameras. Very good cameras. The FBI will be very interested in Mexican nationals making threats on American soil. What about the board meeting? I asked. Chen has 30%. He just needs another 21% to force me out. Actually, Tom's smile got wider. He needs those proxy buyers to stay loyal. But what happens when those buyers learn they've been funding terrorism, that Dragon Holdings is connected to human trafficking, that their investment might be seized under RICO statutes? They'd sell, Marcus breathed. They'd dump those shares as fast as possible. And guess who's ready to buy them? Tom asked. You have that kind of money? I stared at him. Not me, but the United States government has a vested interest in keeping Chinese organized crime out of American infrastructure. There are funds available for situations like this, black budget stuff. You don't need to know the details. My phone buzzed. Emily. Dad, are you okay? I heard about the window. I'm coming over. No, I said quickly. Stay where you are. It's not safe. Dad, I'm already in the parking lot. And I'm not alone. James is with me. The real James. Agent Park. He says he can help. I looked at Tom, who nodded. Let them up. We're going to need all the help we can get. Because Chen just made a mistake. What mistake? Marcus asked. He came here in person. He threatened you in your own office. And I'm betting. Tom walked to my desk, ran his finger under the edge, and pulled out a tiny device. He planted bugs while he was at it. Which means we can feed him exactly what we want him to hear. The door opened again. Emily walked in, still in jeans and a t-shirt, looking nothing like the bride from 3 days ago. James Park followed. No longer the cocky Harvard boy, now every inch the federal agent. Mr. Mitchell, James said formally. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but David Chen made this personal when he involved Emily. I'm here to help, off the books. Why should I trust you? I asked. You lied to my daughter, used her. Because, James met my eyes steadily. David Chen killed my real father 5 years ago. Made it look like an accident. This case isn't just an assignment for me. It's personal. And right now our interests align. We both want Chen destroyed. Emily touched my arm. Dad, let him help. Please, we need every advantage we can get. I looked around the room. My lawyer, a CIA ghost, an FBI agent who'd fake dated my daughter, Emily herself and me, a construction worker in over his head. David against Goliath, if Goliath had an army. All right, I said finally. But we do this my way. Clean, legal, no one else gets hurt. Tom laughed. Robert, we're way past clean. But legal, that we can do mostly. 3 a.m. seems to be when all the secrets come out in my family. I was standing in my kitchen, unable to sleep again, when I heard the drone. Not a loud sound, just a soft whirring outside my window. By the time I got to the door, it was gone. But a small package sat on my doorstep. No markings, no delivery label. Just a black USB drive wrapped in a note. You're not the only one they hurt. Check the files, destroy after viewing. Mine Turris, a friend. I should have called Tom Bradley. Should have called Marcus. Hell, I should have called the bomb squad, given everything that had happened this week. But something about that handwriting looked familiar. Young, feminine, desperate. I plugged the USB into my laptop, the one not connected to any network, and what I found changed everything. The first folder was labeled Elena Medical. Inside were documents from Phoenix Fertility Center dated 6 months ago. 6 months. When I thought we were trying to save our marriage with counseling, she was getting fertility treatments. The doctor's notes were clear. Patient seeks pregnancy with donor David Chen. Husband unaware. Payment in cash to avoid insurance records. But it was the ultrasound that stopped my heart. Dated 2 weeks ago. Elena was 3 months pregnant. 3 months pregnant with David Chen's baby while sleeping in my bed, eating at my table, spending my money. The second folder nearly made me throw up. Carlos Operations. Dozens of files. Photographs of young Mexican men and women in what looked like a warehouse. Medical equipment. Coolers marked for organ transport. Shipping manifests to China. Prices. $20,000 for a kidney. $50,000 for a liver. $100,000 for a heart. Carlos wasn't just taking my money for failed restaurants. He was selling organs, harvesting them from immigrants who thought they were getting jobs. The third folder was labeled Margaret History. Inside was a Mexican death certificate from 2008. Fernando Hernandez. Cause of death, arsenic poisoning. Ruled accidental, but attached were bank records. Margaret had purchased arsenic-based rat poison 17 times in the 6 months before Fernando died. 17 times! There were also life insurance documents. 3 policies totaling $2 million, all purchased in the year before his death. She'd killed him. My mother-in-law had murdered her husband for money, and I'd been supporting his killer for 15 years. The fourth folder made everything else look like child's play. David Chen, Red Dragon Files. shipping manifests for construction materials that were clearly weapons, girls' photos with ages listed, 14, 15, 16, trafficking victims, bank transfers to judges, politicians, police chiefs. The Phoenix corruption went straight to the top. David Chen wasn't just a money launderer, he was a cancer eating the city from inside. My hands were shaking by the time I opened the last folder. Robert frame job. They had everything planned. Forged emails from my account arranging drug shipments, fake contracts with shell companies, photoshopped images of me with people I'd never met, in places I'd never been. They were going to destroy me so thoroughly that even my death wouldn't save my reputation. At the bottom of the USB was a video file. I clicked play, and Sofia Hernandez appeared on screen. My niece, the one I'd paid medical school tuition for. She was sitting in what looked like a cheap motel room, and she'd been crying. Uncle Robert, if you're watching this, it means I found the courage to send it. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not who anyone thinks I am. 2 years ago, the DEA caught me buying party drugs. Small stuff, but enough to ruin my medical career. They gave me a choice, prison or become an informant. I chose informant. She wiped her eyes, continued. I was supposed to watch my family, report on Carlos's restaurant. Nothing major. But then I discovered what he was really doing. The organs. The trafficking. And Mom, my grandmother, she's connected to the Sinaloa cartel. Has been since before I was born. She ordered the hit on my grandfather when he tried to leave the family business. Sophia looked directly at the camera. They're planning to kill you, Uncle Robert. After they take everything, after they destroy your reputation, you're going to have an accident. David needs you dead to complete the takeover. Mom needs you dead for the insurance money. Elena, she just wants you gone. But here's what they don't know. I've been playing both sides. The DEA thinks I'm their asset, but I've also been feeding information to the FBI about David Chen. And sometimes I feed false information to both. I'm trying to survive, Uncle Robert, just like you. But I'm tired of being everyone's pawn, so I'm giving you everything. Every crime, every plan, every secret. Do with it what you want. But please be careful. And if you can, when this is over, help me disappear. I just want out. The video ended. I sat there in my dark kitchen, staring at the screen. Everything made sense now. The coordinated attacks, the confidence, the cruelty. They all thought they had me surrounded, but they didn't know about Sophia. Their own family was their weakness. I picked up my phone and called Tom Bradley. He answered on the first ring, like he never slept. Robert, it's 3:30 in the morning. I need you at my house. Now, bring James Park. And Tom, we're done playing defense. 20 minutes later, we sat around my kitchen table like a war council. Tom had brought coffee and a device that swept for bugs. James had brought his laptop and the focused intensity of a man who smelled blood in the water. I showed them everything on the USB, watched their faces change from skeptical to shocked to savage. Jesus Christ, James breathed when we got to the organ harvesting photos. We knew Carlos was dirty, but this is a whole nother level. And Margaret killed her husband, Tom added, studying the arsenic evidence. That explains why she's so desperate for money. She's been running from the cartel for 16 years, using Robert as her personal bank. What about Chen's connections? I asked. Can we use this to bury him? James pulled up files on his laptop. With this evidence, we can bury him under the jail, but we need to be smart about it. If we dump everything at once, his lawyers will claim it's fabricated. We need corroboration. Sophia, I said. She's willing to testify. She wants out. Tom leaned back, that dangerous smile playing on his lips again. A DEA asset who's also an FBI informant, who's been playing everyone. That's either brilliant or suicidal. She's 23 years old and terrified, I said firmly. She's also family, real family, not like the rest of them. Can we trust her? James asked. She could be playing us too. I thought about Sophia as a little girl. Quiet, smart, always watching, always calculating. Maybe she'd been surviving longer than any of us knew. I don't think we have a choice. But more importantly, I don't think she's lying. All right, Tom stood up, pacing now. Here's what we do. We turn them against each other. Margaret finds out about Elena's pregnancy with David. Elena finds out Margaret killed Fernando. Carlos discovers David is planning to cut him out of the organ business. And David learns that his Chinese partners think he's become a liability. How do we do all that? I asked. Carefully orchestrated leaks, James smiled. Anonymous tips, fake emails from burner accounts. We make each of them think the others are betraying them. And then we let their paranoia do our work for us. They'll destroy each other trying to survive. And while they're distracted, we build our case. Get Sophia into protective custody. Document everything. And then, Tom's smile was sharp as a blade. Then we bring the whole house of cards down at once. I looked at the USB in my hand. Such a small thing to hold so much evil, so much pain, but also maybe so much hope. Elena's pregnant, I said quietly. 3 months. It's David's. Emily, who'd been silent until now, reached across the table and took my hand. Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't be. It's actually perfect. I stood up, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Power, control, purpose. She thinks that baby is her insurance policy, her way to claim half of everything in the divorce. But what happens when she finds out David's been marked for death by his own people? What happens when she realizes she's carrying the child of a dead man? She'll panic, Tom said approvingly. Turn on him to save herself. Exactly. And Margaret, when she finds out her daughter is pregnant with the enemy's child, the traditional Mexican matriarch will lose her mind. She'll see it as a betrayal of the family, of Fernando's memory. Carlos is the weakest link, James added. He's stupid and greedy. If he thinks David is cutting him out, he'll flip immediately. Probably try to make a deal with us. Then let's get started, I said. Tom, can you handle the Chinese angle? Make David's partners nervous? Already on it. By tomorrow, they'll think he's been talking to the feds. James, the FBI must have contacts in the DEA. Can you get Sophia pulled in safely? I'll make the call. We'll stage it as a raid on her apartment. Make it look like she got caught. That'll keep her cover intact. And me? I asked. You're going to the office tomorrow like nothing's wrong, Tom said. Business as usual. Let them think you're beaten, defeated. Meanwhile, we'll be setting fires they don't even know exist yet. What about the board meeting Thursday? Oh, you'll lose that vote, Tom said cheerfully. David will think he's won. He'll take control of your company. And then Friday morning, federal agents will raid every Mitchell construction site simultaneously. They'll find all the evidence David planted, and so much more. Evidence that leads right back to him. I felt something I hadn't experienced in so long I'd forgotten its name. Hope. They think I'm just a construction worker. Blue collar. Simple. That's your advantage, Emily said fiercely. They underestimated you, just like they underestimated Sophia, just like they underestimated all of us. I looked around the table at my strange new family. A CIA ghost, an FBI agent, my daughter, and me, the ATM who'd finally had enough. Then let's show them what happens when you corner a simple man. Let's show them what we build when we're not building their dreams. Tom raised his coffee mug. To phase 3. Ours, not theirs. We clinked mugs in my dark kitchen, and for the first time since I'd watched that security footage of my wife plotting my destruction, I smiled, really smiled, because the prey had just become the predator, and hunting season was about to begin. The call came at 6 a.m. Thursday morning, the day of the board meeting. Emily's voice, but wrong, weak, scared. Dad, something's wrong. I can't breathe right. I was already grabbing my keys. Where are you, baby? Home. James made dinner last night. The FBI James, not Dad, I think I'm dying. 20 minutes later, I was following the ambulance to Phoenix General, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The paramedics had found her unconscious, her lips tinged blue, her pulse weak but steady. The fake James Chen, the one we thought was David's son before we learned about Agent Park, had disappeared after the wedding disaster. But apparently he'd left one final gift. The ER doctor pulled me aside 2 hours later. Mr. Mitchell, your daughter ingested a significant amount of ricin. Not enough to kill her. She'd be dead already if that was the intent. This was meant to send a message. Will she be okay? My voice cracked like I was 16 again. With treatment, yes. But Mr. Mitchell, this was attempted murder. We've called the police. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. David Chen, I answered, my rage barely contained. You poisoned my daughter? Robert. His voice was silk over steel. I don't know what you're talking about, but I did hear about poor Emily. Such a shame. Stress, perhaps? Or maybe she's just prone to accidents, like her father will be if he doesn't behave. You're going to do nothing, because while you've been playing bedside nurse, interesting things have been happening. Check your email. I pulled up my phone, found a message from the FBI. My blood went cold. They'd frozen all my assets. Every account, every property, everything. The investigation had found credible evidence of money laundering. Your company accounts were frozen an hour ago, David continued. Your personal accounts, too. Can't even buy a coffee now, can you? But don't worry. After today's board meeting, I'll make sure the company survives. Under new management, of course. This won't work, Chen. People know what you are. Do they? Because from where I'm sitting, you're the one under federal investigation. You're the one whose daughter just happened to ingest poison after publicly threatening me. You're the one who looks unstable." He paused, and I could hear his smile. "Oh, and Robert? Your friend Tom Bradley sends his regards. He's been very helpful explaining your mental state. Paranoid delusions, conspiracy theories. The CIA doesn't claim him, you know. He's just a sick old man who latched onto you." My phone buzzed with another call. "Tom." I switched over. "Robert, don't believe anything Chen says. I'm playing me? Using me? Which is it, Tom? Listen carefully. I had to make Chen think I flipped. It's the only way to get close enough to—" The line went dead. I tried calling back. Nothing. When I looked up, Agent James Park was walking toward me through the hospital corridor. But something was wrong. He was flanked by 2 other agents, and his face was all business. "Mr. Mitchell, I need you to come with us. My daughter is—"
Your daughter is under guard. She's safe. You, however, are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion.
The handcuffs were cold. The Miranda rights sounded like they were coming from underwater. As they led me out, I saw Elena in the lobby, her pregnancy now showing slightly under her designer dress. She was crying, actually crying, running toward me. "Robert! Oh God, Robert, I'm so sorry. I didn't want this. It went too far." She grabbed my arm and the agents paused. "Elena, don't." "The baby," she sobbed. "I lied. It's yours, Robert. It was always yours. I haven't been with David in months. I wanted to hurt you like you hurt me when you chose your principles over our family." "Mrs. Mitchell," Agent Park interrupted, "we need to move. I have the real DNA test." Elena pulled papers from her purse. "Look, 3 months pregnant, and the DNA matches Robert. David made me lie. He said he'd kill me if I didn't play along." Park took the papers, scanned them. His expression didn't change. "Ma'am, these documents will be reviewed, but right now your husband is under arrest." As they dragged me away, Elena's last words echoed. "I'm going to fix this, Robert. I swear I'm going to fix this." The federal detention center was a special kind of hell. Cold, sterile, hopeless. Marcus showed up 3 hours later, looking like he'd aged 10 years. "Rob, it's bad. They have everything. Emails from your account arranging drug shipments, contracts with companies that don't exist, money transfers to offshore accounts. It's all planted. You know that. I know that. But proving it, they have a witness saying you confessed everything." "Who? What witness?" Marcus's face was grim. "Tom Bradley. He gave a sworn statement that you admitted to using the company for money laundering, that you were paranoid, desperate, willing to do anything to maintain your lifestyle for Elena's family." "That's insane. Tom's CIA. The CIA says they've never heard of him. His credentials are fake, 20-year-old fakes, but fakes. As far as the government is concerned, Tom Bradley is a con man who gained your trust. What about James Park? He knows the truth. Agent Park has been reassigned. Apparently his involvement with Emily compromised the investigation. He's been transferred to Seattle, effective immediately." Marcus sat down heavily. "Rob, they've isolated you completely. No allies, no assets, no options. The board meeting happened an hour ago. David Chen is now CEO of Mitchell Construction. The board voted unanimously. Even Peterson, who you've known for 30 years. I slumped in the metal chair. This was it. The darkest hour everyone talks about, but nobody really understands until they're in it. My daughter poisoned. My company stolen. My freedom gone. My allies turned or transferred. Even Elena's confession felt like another trap, another manipulation. "Marcus," I said quietly, "what are my options? Honestly, take a plea deal. David's lawyers are offering one. Plead guilty to minor tax evasion. Do 18 months minimum security, and sign over all claims to the company. You'd get out in a year with good behavior. And if I fight? With what money? With what evidence? Rob, I've been your lawyer for 20 years, and I'm telling you, they've won. Take the deal." After Marcus left, I sat in that cold cell thinking about Fernando Hernandez, Elena's father, the man Margaret had poisoned slowly over months. Had he known in those final days? Had he realized his wife was killing him but been unable to prove it? Unable to fight? Unable to escape? A guard appeared at my cell. "Mitchell, you have a visitor." I expected Marcus back with more bad news, or maybe Elena with more lies. Instead, Sofia Hernandez walked in. My niece, the one who'd sent the USB, the double agent playing everyone. She sat down across from me, and for the first time, I noticed how much she looked like her grandfather, Fernando. Same eyes, same quiet strength. "Uncle Robert," she said simply. "They got to you too?" "Not yet. I'm still under everyone's radar. The DEA thinks I'm in Mexico. The FBI thinks I'm in protective custody. My family thinks I'm at a medical conference. She leaned forward, lowered her voice. David Chen made 3 mistakes. First, he let Tom Bradley get too close. Second, he trusted my grandmother. And third, she pulled out a phone, showed me a video. He forgot that poison can work both ways. On the screen was David Chen at a restaurant, drinking wine. The timestamp was an hour ago. What did you do? Ricin, she said simply. Same dose he gave Emily. Not enough to kill, just enough to send a message. He'll be in the hospital within 2 hours. And while he's there, vulnerable, scared, certain people are going to visit him. People he owes money to. People who don't like that the FBI is sniffing around their operations. Sophia, you saved my life, Uncle Robert. Maybe not literally, but you gave me opportunities, paid for my education, treated me like I mattered. Nobody else in this family ever did that. She stood up. The darkest hour only lasts 60 minutes. Then the sun comes up. And tomorrow, Uncle Robert, the sun is going to rise on a very different world. She walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Tom Bradley? He's exactly who he said he was. The CIA can't claim him because this operation is so black it doesn't exist. But trust me, he's your friend. Maybe your only real friend. As the cell door closed behind her, I sat in the darkness thinking about chess, about sacrifice moves, about how sometimes you have to let the enemy think they've won to see their true position. David Chen thought he'd checkmated me, but he'd forgotten about the pawns, the quiet pieces everyone ignores. Tomorrow was Friday, and Sophia was right. The sun would rise on a very different world. I just had to survive the night. 3 a.m. in federal detention is when the ghosts visit. I was lying on that thin mattress staring at the ceiling when Fernando's words came back to me. My father-in-law on his deathbed 16 years ago grabbing my hand with surprising strength. Roberto, he'd wheezed, his eyes yellow from what we thought was liver failure, but now I knew was arsenic. The lemon tree, beneath the lemon tree, protection for when the truth he'd died before finishing, and we'd all assumed it was delirium. But now in this cell, with everything stripped away, I understood. Fernando knew. He knew Margaret was poisoning him. He knew what his wife really was, and he'd left something behind, something buried beneath that lemon tree at the East Phoenix house. The house I'd bought for them. The house that still had my name on the deed. At 4 a.m., my cell door opened. Tom Bradley stood there, but not the Tom I knew. This Tom wore a federal marshal's uniform, complete with authentic badge and credentials. Time to go, Mitchell. Tom, what the hell? Keep your mouth shut and follow me. We have exactly 12 minutes before the shift change. We walked through corridors I shouldn't have been able to access, past cameras that somehow weren't working, through doors that should have been locked but weren't. Outside, a black Suburban waited, engine running. Get in, we need to talk. As we drove through empty Phoenix streets, Tom finally spoke. First things first, I am CIA. Deep cover, so deep that my own agency can't acknowledge me without exposing 17 other operations. The credentials David found were supposed to be fake. It's called a false flag backstop. So you betraying me was theater. I needed David to trust me completely, to bring me into his inner circle, and it worked. Right now, he thinks I'm delivering you to a safe house where you'll be tortured for your offshore account information. But instead we're going to dig up whatever Fernando buried. Then we're going to end this, tonight. The East Phoenix house sat dark and empty. Margaret had moved out after the wedding disaster, probably hiding with her cartel family. We slipped through the back gate, and there it was. The lemon tree, gnarled, ancient, still producing fruit after all these years. Tom handed me a shovel. Better make this quick. 3 feet down, we hit metal, a box wrapped in plastic, sealed with wax. Inside, Fernando had left his own nuclear option, documents, photos, and a letter in his shaky handwriting. To whoever finds this, probably Roberto, because you're the only honest one in this family. My wife is not who she claims, neither is my daughter. The woman I married was Magdalena Cortez, sister of Hector Cortez, head of the Sinaloa cartel. Elena is not our biological daughter. She is the child of Hector Cortez and a woman he murdered. Margaret took her to legitimize herself, to appear normal. I kept reading, my hands shaking. Margaret has been feeding information to the cartel for decades. Every business I tried to start, she sabotaged so I would remain dependent. She is poisoning me now. I can taste it in everything she cooks, but I have no proof the police would believe, so I leave this proof for you. Bank records, photos of Margaret with cartel members, recording tapes from our home. Use them when the time comes. And Roberto, protect the grandchildren. They are innocent of their parents' sins. Tom was going through the other documents. Jesus Christ, Robert, this is everything. Margaret's real identity, her connection to 3 different cartels, money transfers, murder confessions she thought were private conversations. He held up a cassette tape. We need to hear this. Back in the Suburban, Tom had an old cassette player. He'd come prepared. Margaret's voice filled the car, speaking Spanish, laughing about Fernando's weakness, about how easy it was to kill him slowly, how the gringo's son-in-law was even easier to manipulate. Just show tears, speak of family, and his wallet opened like magic. This changes everything, I said. Elena doesn't even know she's not Margaret's real daughter. She's been living a lie her entire life. It gets better, Tom said, pulling out his phone. While you were in detention, David Chen made a fatal mistake. He got cocky, started bragging to me about his plans. I recorded everything. He hit play on another recording. David's voice, confident and cruel. Once Mitchell is gone, I'll dispose of the Hernandez family too. Margaret, Elena, that idiot Carlos. They're liabilities. The old woman thinks she's untouchable because of her cartel connections. But the triads have deals with the Sinaloa. One word from me, and Margaret Cortez dies in her sleep. He's planning to kill them all? Every single one. You were just phase 1. Your family was phase 2. Then he'd have the company clean. No loose ends. Tom started the engine. We need to move fast. David's about to learn that the ricin Sophia gave him was just the appetizer. The main course is about to be served. What main course? Tom smiled that dangerous smile. You know how David always has tea at exactly 6 a.m., special imported tea from China? Well, Agent Park might be in Seattle officially, but he left behind a parting gift. That tea has been replaced with something special. Not poison, something much better. We drove to a coffee shop that was just opening. Tom set up a laptop, pulled up multiple feeds. Watch, he said. On screen, David Chen's penthouse came into view, through what looked like a hidden camera. David was there, pale from the ricin, but recovering, making his morning tea with shaking hands. He took a sip, then another. Within minutes, his pupils dilated. His hands started moving erratically. LSD, Tom said simply. A massive dose. In about 10 minutes, David Chen is going to confess every crime he's ever committed to anyone who will listen. And we've made sure the right people are listening. The door to David's penthouse opened. 3 men walked in, Asian, dangerous looking. Not the kind of men you wanted to meet while tripping on acid. Who are they? I asked. David's bosses from the Red Dragon Triad. They're very interested in rumors that David's been skimming from their operations. Rumors I may have started. David's about to have the worst trip of his life, and he's going to confess everything. On screen, David started talking, rambling, confessing to skimming money, to planning to betray the triads, to working with the FBI. The lies Tom had planted mixed with the truth in his acid-fried brain until even he couldn't tell the difference. Meanwhile, Tom switched screens. Margaret Cortez is about to get her own surprise. Another feed showed Margaret in a motel room, bags packed, ready to run. The door exploded inward. Federal agents poured in. But not just any agents. Mexican federal police. Extradition warrant in hand. Turns out, Tom explained, Mexico really wants to talk to her about Fernando's murder, and about her brother Hector's operations. She's been feeding information to rival cartels. The Sinaloa cartel wants her more than we do. What about Elena? I asked. My pregnant wife who might actually be carrying my child. Check your phone, Tom said. I looked down. A text from Elena. Robert, I'm at the hospital with Emily. The DNA test was real. The baby is yours. I'm so sorry for everything. David threatened to kill me if I didn't lie. Please forgive me. I'm turning myself in to the FBI. It's the only way to keep our child safe. I looked at Tom. Is this real? Or another manipulation? Only one way to find out. He started driving toward the hospital. But Robert, you should know something. Sophia called. Carlos is dead. What? How? Tried to run to Mexico last night. Crossed the wrong people at the border. The organ harvesting operation he was running? He was stealing from both the cartel and the triads. They found out. Tom pulled into the hospital parking garage. It's almost dawn, Robert. The darkest hour is ending. Time to see what the sunrise brings. As we walked toward the hospital entrance, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Not quite hope, not quite peace, but something close. The chessboard had been flipped. The pieces were scattered, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't playing defense anymore. Tom, I said as we reached Emily's room, when this is over, when the dust settles, what happens to you? He smiled, a real smile this time. I disappear, again. It's what I do. But Robert, you've earned something most people never get. A friend in the shadows. If you ever need me, really need me, Just put a chess piece in your window. A king. I'll know. Through the window I could see Emily in her hospital bed, awake now talking to Elena, my daughter and my wife, or ex-wife, or whatever Elena was now. Behind them the phoenix sun was rising, painting the mountains gold and red. A new day, a new game, and this time I knew all the rules. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. Ready? No, I said honestly, but I'm going in anyway. That's the Robert Mitchell I've been waiting to see. The fighter, the builder, the man who doesn't quit. I pushed open the door to Emily's room. Elena looked up, tears streaming down her face. Emily reached for my hand, and somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed as David Chen's empire began to burn. The final key had been turned. The locks were opening, and the truth, after so many years of lies, was finally coming home. 6 months later, I stood in the same office where David Chen had tried to destroy me. But now it was mine again, really mine. Not just Mitchell Construction, but Chen International Holdings too. Every asset he'd built with blood money now belonged to the people he'd hurt. The federal asset forfeiture had been beautiful to watch. Mr. Mitchell, my new assistant, knocked. Your 3 o'clock is here. Emily walked in, but this wasn't the scared girl from the wedding. She wore a sharp FBI blazer, her badge visible, her eyes clear and confident. Behind her, James Park followed. Still together, but now the lies were gone. Dad, she said, and then smiled. Or should I say, Mr. Mitchell, considering this is official business. I came around the desk, hugged her tight. You can call me whatever you want. You earned it. She pulled back, her expression shifting to professional. Dad, I need to tell you something. I've needed to tell you for a year, but I couldn't until the operation was complete. She sat down, James beside her. I've been working with the FBI since before I met James, since my last year of college, actually. They recruited me when they found out about Mom's family connections. I've been undercover in my own family for 3 years. The words hit like ice water. You knew. This whole time you knew what they were. Not everything, not the extent, but I knew Mom was dirty. I knew Grandma Margaret was connected to cartels. I knew Uncle Carlos was more than just a failure. The FBI wanted inside information. I gave it to them. She leaned forward. Dad, every time you helped them, every check you wrote, I documented it. Not to hurt you, but to protect you. To prove you were a victim, not a conspirator. The wedding was supposed to be the final operation. James and I were going to get married for real. We did fall in love during the assignment. But when David Chen showed up, when the plan accelerated, we had to adapt. Your reaction, the chaos, it actually helped. Made them think they'd won. I sat back, looking at my daughter. Really looking at her. You're not the little girl who needed protecting anymore. I never was, Dad. But I needed you to believe I was. It was the only way to keep you safe. And Elena? Emily's face softened. Mom's complicated. The pregnancy is real. The baby is yours. But she's going to prison for 5 years minimum. Fraud, conspiracy, theft. She took a plea deal. Full cooperation against David's network. What about the baby? Due in 3 months. Mom signed custody over to you. Said it was the one good thing she could do. Through the window, I could see the construction site across the street. But it wasn't just any site. It was the new Veterans Community Center, built with the seized assets from Chen's operation. Tom Bradley had helped design it before he disappeared again, leaving only a chess piece on my desk and a note. Until next time. Mr. Mitchell, another knock. The documentary crew is here. Right, the Netflix crew doing a special on the whole scandal. The ATM husband, they were calling it. The story had gone national after David's acid-fueled confession video leaked. The man had confessed to everything while 3 Triad members watched in horror. He was dead within a week, killed in federal custody. Suicide, they said. Sure, Margaret had been extradited to Mexico. The news said she'd been torn apart by rival cartel members within days of arriving. Brutal, but fitting for a woman who'd poisoned her own husband. Carlos had died at the border, his organ-harvesting empire exposed. Hundreds of victims had been found. Some alive, some not. Dad, Emily stood. There's one more thing. James has been promoted. We're moving to D.C. I'll be working in the organized crime division. My chest tightened, but I smiled. That's amazing, sweetheart. I'm proud of you. We want you to come visit. Often. And when the baby's born, I'll be there, I promised. Count on it. After they left, I walked to the window. Phoenix sprawled below, the desert sun painting everything gold. Sophia was down there somewhere, in witness protection with a new identity, finally free. She sent postcards sometimes. No words, just pictures of beaches, mountains, places where nobody knew her name. Elena was in minimum security in Tucson. I'd visited once. She'd cried, apologized, begged for forgiveness. I'd told her the truth. I'd forgive her for Emily's sake, for the baby's sake, but we were done. 30 years of marriage reduced to supervised visits and custody agreements. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mitchell. The voice was electronic, disguised. You don't know me, but I know you. David Chen owed my organization money. Significant money. His debts don't die with him. That's not my problem, I said calmly. Actually, it is. You own his assets now. In our world, that means you own his debts. I laughed. Actually laughed. You think you can threaten me? After everything I've survived? I have the FBI on speed dial. The CIA owes me favors. I have evidence that could bury 20 more of Chen's associates. So here's my counteroffer. You forget this debt exists, and I forget the recording I'm making of this call. Silence. Then you're not the same man from a year ago. No, I agreed. That man was an ATM. He dispensed money to anyone who pushed his buttons. That man is dead. I'm someone else now. Someone who pushes back. The line went dead. They wouldn't call again. Word had spread in the underworld. Robert Mitchell was protected. Untouchable. Not because of who I was, but because of who stood behind me. I looked at the photo on my desk. Emily and James at their real wedding last month. Small ceremony. Just family, the real family, the chosen family. Tom Bradley had even shown up somehow, despite officially not existing. Next to it, an ultrasound photo. My son. Elena and I had agreed on the name Fernando, after the one honest man in her family. The man who'd hidden the truth that saved us all. My empire wasn't built on construction anymore. It was built on redemption. Every building we raised housed veterans. Every contract we took helped families destroyed by organized crime. The money that had once fed parasites now fed purpose. The sun was setting over Phoenix, and I had dinner plans. Not with family by blood, but family by choice. Veterans who'd become brothers, FBI agents who'd become friends, a ghost of a CIA man who appeared when needed, and soon a son who'd grow up knowing his father wasn't an ATM, but a man who'd learned when to give, when to fight, and when to stand his ground. I picked up the chess piece Tom had left. A king, not because I'd won the game, but because I'd learned to play it. The ATM was dead. Long live the king.